All right, let's start with a prayer and then Brett can go on. So if everybody will bow their heads. Lord, it was not you who chose me, says the Lord, but I who chose you and appointed you to go and bear fruit, fruit that will last. Blessed is that servant whom his Lord finds awake when he comes and knocks at the gate. Amen. All right, Brett, it's turned over to you.
All right. So let me open this up real quick.
Although, wait a minute, I think David wanted to introduce you. Dave,
Okay.
Walter?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah. Dave, why don't you do that?
We're honored today to have our new neighbor from South New Street, Brent Selleck. He grew up in Cincinnati, played for the University of Cincinnati Bearcats, and then he spent his entire 11-year NFL career with a team that you might have heard of. It's been in the news lately, the Philadelphia Eagles. And Brent is one of those responsible for, after seems like centuries, bringing a Super Bowl victory to Philadelphia. So without any further ado, take it away, Brent.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. All right, let me open up this PowerPoint real quick. And then I need like multiple screens. Here we go.
That's good. Life, football, and real estate.
All right, guys. Is this all right? This is how we do it. Sorry, it takes me a second to get Zoom going. Yeah, so we'll just talk about my life, where I got started, football, and then real estate, which is what I'm in now and what I love. Okay, so I grew up in Cincinnati. I was the oldest of 5 kids. My parents owned hair salons. And I would say at a young age, I really understood the back end of a business because my mom had 130 women working for her, and she dealt with all types of problems. And to be able to see how my mom reacted in those situations, when it was successful, when it wasn't, how the people reacted, I think it was a great lesson that I didn't even know I was learning at a young age. You know, just to be around my mom, you know, she was a very strong mother. She'd work all day and then come home and cook us food for dinner. And my mom is one of the most amazing cooks, you know, I've ever been around. I think the reason I have a love for food is because of my mom. And, you know, we're still trying to figure out what my dad has done over the last 30 something years. But I had a stay-at-home dad. It was actually pretty funny. It was awesome. But we joke a lot. You know, my dad's awesome. My dad can pretty much do anything with his hands. If anything is broken, I don't care what it is. My dad's got that engineering mind. He'll find a way to fix it. And so, you know, being with my parents who were great leaders in our family, and then me being the oldest of 5 kids, you know, I took it upon myself to be a great brother to my 2 sisters and my 2 brothers. And, you know, all to this day now are, you know, they're all very successful and very happy in their own personal lives. And to me, that's the most important thing. And we're all still really close. We try to get together as much as we can. I like showing this picture because I just remember living together with these guys, and me and my 2 brothers used to honestly sleep in the same bed until I went into high school. And it's very different now. Now I got 2 kids laying with me every night. I enjoy that, but I don't like being kicked all night. In grade school, I always wanted to play football, and the school I went to didn't even have a football team. And so I always told my parents, like, since I was young, and you could ask my parents, I always said that I wanted to play in the NFL. And the fact that my school didn't have a football program, I was the only kid in my school that played football. My parents called the local Catholic League, and they basically said, yeah, your son can play, but what we're going to do is we're going to put him on the team with the least amount of players. And so the first year, yeah, I went to this team visitation here in the Orange, and it was probably like 15 minutes away from my house. And I thought that moving forward, that was going to be my team that I kind of played with all through grade school. And so the first year was over, and the next year came, and the league said, listen, we have this other team. They're short on players. Like, you need to go play for this other team in the league. And so the next year I went and played for this team in the middle here, which is St. Catherine's. And if you notice, my dad is that coach up in the right-hand corner. My dad had to coach because this place was 25 minutes away from my house. And so, at a young age, I was like a free agent. Next year, I go to St. Ignatius, and my parents finally said, "All right, guys, enough is enough. Like, you can't do this to our son. He can't go play basically at any team that needs him for that year." Because honestly, I was always on the worst teams too. The teams with the least amount of players were the worst teams. And so we were just getting crushed every single week. And I don't know how I kept my love for football. I never had a winning record until I got to, I think, college. So it was very, I had a very odd upbringing, but at a young age, I learned that I didn't want to be a free agent. I knew from that day moving forward, like, I don't want to play for multiple teams in the same league. Like, I'm playing against my friends. Like, what is going on? This is terrible. So I was lucky to be able to stay with that team up in the right-hand corner up here for the last couple of years of my grade school career. And then I decided to go to high school, had a local all boys Catholic school named LaSalle High School. And I would say right there is where I learned a lot of the work ethic that I got, because I had a lifting coach at LaSalle that was just unbelievable. The guy, like, we would do lifting sessions there at school, and then he would take some of us, like 5 or 6 guys, to another gym afterwards, and we would hit our legs. We were lifting a lot, and I was dedicating a lot of my time and effort to football because I wanted to be good at it. And one guy that was always a supporter of mine, in this picture right there, is my grandpa. From a young age, man, he believed that I could make it to the NFL. And, like, it's crazy because when you grow up and you're telling people in your family, like, what do you want to do in life? Well, I want to play in the NFL. And they laugh at you. But deep down, you're serious. Like, no, this is what I want to do. Now, ultimately, anything can happen. I could get hurt, whatever. But I think as a young kid, like, you got to believe that, because it pushes you to work harder than anybody else. And so having my grandpa be a believer in me, when I had spring breaks, when I had any time off in college, I would drive up to his house. He lived 3.5 hours away from me. And so we developed a real tight bond while I was in high school. And, after high school, I had some offers to go to some smaller schools. If I would have waited a little bit longer, I probably could have got some offers to some smaller Big Ten schools. But I knew I wanted to stay close to home. So I decided to go to the University of Cincinnati. And I had a coach, Mark D'Antonio, who was one of the great leaders I've ever been around. Just his command of the team, the respect he had for his players, how he handled situations. Similar, like I was saying with my mom, you get to see these leaders handle situations, and to be around great ones. I was so lucky, and at a young age, to be around Mark D'Antonio, where he was kind of like a father away from home. It's priceless, and I still text him to this day, like, thank you for all the things you've taught me. Because some of those things, like, I'm taking them with me for the rest of my life, and I'm going to teach the young kids that I'm around, some of those lessons that these guys taught me. So in college, I felt like my sophomore year, like, I had a chance to make it in the NFL. This is a real opportunity. And, my junior and senior year, had okay years, not the greatest, but when I was coming out, there were some teams that had some interest in me. I didn't even know the Eagles had interest in me, but like the Jacksonville Jaguars, they came up and they didn't even want to see me do any tight end drills. They wanted to see me snap, because they thought there's no way I could be a tight end in the NFL, but I could potentially be a long snapper. And so that always made me so mad. Those little moments where people doubt you and tell you can't. That was one thing that I did live off of. I fed off of that, and I was always trying to prove them wrong, because I knew my abilities, and what I could do. So after college, I obviously get drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles in the 5th round. Nothing's guaranteed. I remember talking to Coach Reid when they drafted me, and I just basically said, man, I'm gonna give you everything I got, and nothing less. And I tried to hold true to that. Andy Reid he's the GOAT in the NFL, man. I can't say enough about that guy. And out of all the coaches that I've ever had, probably learned the most from him, and the type of person that he was, and how he handled situations. And, when his son died, and how he talked to the team, some of these moments, that I'll take with me for the rest of my life. And, only hope to act the same way in certain situations, and to handle situations the way that he did, and to learn and to grow. And so, to be able to have him as a head coach for 6 years, and then learn so much from Chip Kelly, and then be with Doug, I really was blessed with a lot of leaders in my life that I was able to learn so many lessons from. And those are the type of things that I'm taking with me in the business world. When I got to the Eagles, I looked up to all the veterans. When you come into a place, you look at the guy that's been there the longest and say, all right, who is that guy? For me, it was easy, because these dudes were legends already in the NFL. I was playing with Brian Dawkins and McNabb and Westbrook on video games. And so coming in there, they were like superheroes to me. And I learned so much from these guys. I learned what it took to be a pro. The amount of hard work that's got to be put in and day out. It's crazy. And there's a reason why you can only do it for, 12 to 15 years, if you're lucky. The average NFL career is three and a half years. So, to be able to see these guys at a very young age and try to emulate them throughout my career, I think was huge for my development. Another thing I learned early in the NFL is, man, they are critical of everything. The details are everything. You can't mess up and just think it's going to go away. What I love about the NFL is everything's on film. You go out on the field, then you come back in and you watch what you did on the field. And not only do you watch it, but everyone else on your team sees exactly what you did, whether you screwed up, whether you didn't. And what's crazy is, like, that's the world I lived in all my life. Like the business world is so much different, and you're so worried about, hurting people's feelings and stepping on people's toes. It's a totally different world. And, I fell in love with it. I love that aspect of it, but it is hard. I mean, it's hard to do for 10 plus years, and not feel kind of stale in it at some points. And so, getting into the NFL and really seeing what it means to be a professional, the level of detail, how, where you put your hands, what your first step is. If you don't take the right first step, you're getting beat. All those things are so very important. Another thing is, like, the culture is created inside the locker room. I truly believe that how the players feel about each other ultimately shows on the field, because when things get tough, do these guys care about each other so much that they're going to do whatever it takes to come back and win that game? Or are they all going to just be like, dude, I can't wait to get in my car and go home after this game. Like, this season's been terrible. And so I'm a firm believer that, to create that culture inside the locker room, guys just got to communicate, man. Guys got to tell each other what they mean to each other. That's one thing I learned about life. I feel like that year we won the Super Bowl is that you got to talk to people. You got to tell them what they mean to you, because at the end of the day, when they're gone, you're going to wish you would have done it. And so, I think I try to over communicate to my people that I work with now. In some cases, the same thing with my family. Try to tell them what they mean to me. Tell them that I love them all the time. Because I think, when I was growing up, I was kind of like a tough guy. Like, some of that stuff doesn't matter. But I think it does. And I think that's what creates culture. That's what makes guys care that much more, and want to do something special. Beginning of 2017, the Eagles brought me in and they told me that they wanted me to take a pay cut or they were going to cut me. And so I knew at that moment, this could be one of my last years in Philly. And so I took the pay cut, and, I was like, man, this might be it. And so that day moving forward, I started telling guys, man, this might be it for me. Like, I'm going to treat this year like it's my last. And so that off season, Alshon Jeffrey came to our team, and I remember sitting in the locker room, in the cafeteria with him, and we were eating lunch and, just meeting him. And I was like, man, Alshon, could you imagine if we won a Super Bowl here? Like, these are the greatest fans in the world. Like, they haven't even won the greatest thing ever. Could you imagine what they did and what they would do? And he was like, if you mean when. And that day, I was like, man, he's right. If we want to do this, like, our mindset has to be, we're going to do this. And so I truly feel like 2017, we had this mindset that we were going to win it all. And then this, the second game, Jake Elliott kicks a field goal, and we win that game. And then we go on a run, and we really felt unstoppable. I felt like the play calls were perfect, like things were just going our way. And then obviously, we were hit with some adversity. And when you see some of the guys that we lost during that season, these dudes were leaders. Every single one of these guys were leaders on our team. And, when Jason Peters went down, when Sproles went down, you're like, man, I hope this isn't another one of those years. And then, there goes Hicks. And then Carson goes down, and you're like, Oh my gosh. I mean, mid-game when we were playing the Rams and he went down, it's like, are you serious? Is this really happening when we're in the midst of one of our greatest seasons? And then Nick goes out there and finishes the game and wins us the game. And the whole attitude in the locker room after that game was like insane. I mean, that's when I knew, okay, we have a real chance of winning the Super Bowl, because we just lost the MVP of the NFL. And this dude just came in and was slinging the ball around, and we won the game against a really good team. So I think that that win just gave us the confidence as a team that truly it's next man up. Like, it doesn't matter. If we want to win it all, it doesn't matter who we lose, what happens. We need to keep moving forward. And the one thing I'll say about all these guys that we lost through that is that these guys stayed around the team. A lot of people don't understand that, you know, when guys get hurt in the NFL, in some cases, they'll go back to their hometown, they'll go do their own thing. But these guys stayed around and they were teaching the young guys, you know, different techniques, watching them. And when guys do that, again, like I said, that culture inside the locker room, the younger guys, they care more. Like, oh man, one of the guys that, you know, Jason Peters, a Hall of Famer, is out here watching me, you know, coaching me up. I'm going to care more. And so it, to me, not only did it take all the guys that were on the field to win that Super Bowl, it took all these guys being selfless and really putting the team ahead of themselves and helping the young guys. For me, the two biggest things that I think helped me be successful in football and for our team in 2017, focus and attitude. Like, if you can just focus on your job and just do your job, and everybody does that, then altogether it's like magic. If people are focused on other people's jobs, they're doing, you know, want to do something else, doesn't work as well. And attitude, you know, when you wake up in the morning, if you got a bad attitude, I guarantee you ain't gonna get many things done during the day. You're gonna find ways to get out of stuff. You're gonna find excuses. But if you wake up in the morning and you're like, I'm ready to go. I'm gonna attack the day. I'm gonna give the day everything I got, and then when it's over, I'm gonna lay my head down and I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and do it again. And I know it's not easy. I mean, it's something that I battle every single day, and that I got to make sure I keep my attitude right and my focus right. Otherwise, you know, you make mistakes, you mess things up. You know, when we went through the playoffs and then we get to the Super Bowl, and we had to have some things kind of happen for us, like when we were playing the Falcons and Julio Jones dropped that pass in the end zone. And so we knew, like, getting to this point wasn't easy. There were some things that happened for us, but at the end of the day, like, the city of Philadelphia didn't care if we got to the Super Bowl. They don't talk about the team that lost the Super Bowl. And so that week, all we did was talk about winning the Super Bowl. And what was great about it was we were holed up in a hotel in Minnesota. It was like 10 degrees outside. And so literally we would stay in our rooms all day because there's so many people outside of your room anyway. So you'd sit up in your room all day, and then we would go to practice. And then we would come back and you'd sit in the hotel all day in your room. And so I felt like that practice field was our way of like getting out, you know, like that was our release. And our practices that week were some of the best practices I'd ever been around. The intensity, the emotion, like you are how you practice. And I feel like we as a team, we practice better than we ever had that week. And so you know, we get into the game and Nick Foles is just dueling it back and forth. And to be honest, like, when you're in the moment, you're just focused on your job, you know, what I got to do. Now that I can take a step back and look at it, it's like, my God, the stress level. If I was a fan, I would have been stressed out that whole game. But as a player, I, just had to focus on my job. And, when that clock hit 0 and that ball hit the ground, I didn't even know what to do. I didn't even know how to feel. I was like, man, this is insane. Like, our lives have changed from this day moving forward. And just hugging all the guys on that field that day, because together we were now a family, connected by this Super Bowl. It meant everything to me. Like I said, when I was a young kid, playing in the NFL was all I dreamt about. I wrote poems about winning the Super Bowl when I was in grade school. And so that was a dream of mine. And to be able to do that with all these guys that, I have such great relationships with and consider family to this day, I'll cherish that forever. And I'll never forget, the personality of that team and all the guys that we had that were selfless, that would do whatever it took to help our team win. And ultimately, I think that's what it was. After the Super Bowl, I kind of wanted to keep playing football. I was like, man, we could go do this again. And the team had different plans. They thought I was done, and they thought that the Super Bowl was a perfect way for me to go out. And I didn't want to hear it. I was like, man, whatever. I still got it. And so I went on a visit to Detroit after they cut me. And I walked through Detroit's facilities, and it felt like a hospital. And it was just so cold, and I don't know, it was just awful. And I felt like I was cheating on my teammates, and I was like, man, this isn't where I want to be. I just did one of the greatest things ever in helping bring a Super Bowl to Philadelphia. To go and play for the Lions or any other team just didn't make sense to me. And so I was sitting up at my lake house, and I was with my parents and my wife and kids. And at one day I was just like, you know what, I'm done. My dad was like, yeah, I think you are done. And at that moment I was at peace, and it was the best decision I ever made. It was the toughest decision I ever made. But not to play for another team and just to play for the Eagles in my entire career, still to this day, means a lot to me. I love that organization. I love the guys on that team. And I'm still happy with my decision. And the reason I was able to get out of it is because I do have something else that I love. I love real estate. When my wife and I said we were going to move to Westchester, my wife found this lot that we live at here. And, for 4 years, we designed and basically developed it. And it was probably one of the most fun times in my life, was going through that process. I absolutely love creating things. And so, I fell in love with the real estate world and decided to open up my own brokerage. And now I'm selling real estate in the area, and people that need help with developing, have any questions in real estate, I'm here. I'm happy to help. I'm learning every single day more and more about things inside of real estate. But I'm basically right now just creating a sales team inside of a company that, this is family to me. What I did on the football field is what I'm trying to take in the business world with me. And, all the leaders that I had learned from, just passing down some of the lessons that I learned from them. And for me in the real estate world, it's no different than the football world. It's just focus and attitude. You know, it's me focusing on what I need to do, what I need to get done that day, and then having a good attitude to go after it and just work on getting better every day. And here's how I do it for, man. This is my wife, my 3 kids, and then I had my 2 uncles there with my dad. You know, these guys mean everything to me, and to have them out here in Philly, you know, after being retired, it meant the world to me. And I love my wife and 3 kids, and excited to, you know, basically raise them out here in Westchester, be a part of your guys' community. So if anybody has any questions. I'm here
Brett, I have a question. My name is Nick Tortorello.
Yeah.
What made the Eagles think at the end of that year that you won the Super Bowl that you were done? I mean, I watched games pretty closely, and I was pretty much almost a professional baseball player. So I watch guys play sports, and I watch it with a different perspective. And I thought you certainly still had it. I mean, you might have been a little slower or whatever, but what made them think you were done?
I mean, it just comes down to organizational decisions. And I think at some point as an organization, you have to go younger in some positions. For me, you know, I didn't care. I was like, I don't care. I feel like I'm a leader on this team. I feel like I can still help the guys that are here. Like I felt the year we won the Super Bowl, if we could have kept that same tight end group, I thought we had the best tight end group in the NFL. And so that's, you know, we all had a role inside the team. But, you know, as an organization, they have to make those decisions. And honestly, I understand it because, you know, if I was in their position, you know, there's going to be times where you're going to have to make tough decisions. And you know, I had to just live with it. But ultimately, I was so happy about it because I did win a Super Bowl. The last game I ever played in was the Super Bowl. And, you know, I didn't have to deal with any of that stuff that was going on this year and previous years. So I'm happy with it. I'm actually happy that they did cut me because I would have kept playing, and it may not have been the right thing for me.
Well, you're a very optimistic and forgiving guy. Let me say that. But I mean, do you think they had their eye on somebody else coming out of college? That
they could have. I mean, listen, the guy that they got, Dallas Goedert, that kid's the best young tight end in the game.
Yeah, he's very good.
So they're set up. What they did after they got rid of me, they did right by, you know, getting Goddard and drafting him where they did, because they got a steal with him.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a great young player. He's going to be a great player.
Brent, John Dornbush seems like a superhuman being. What was his role in the locker room?
To be a comedian. And John was, I think, out of all the teammates I had in the NFL, I played with John the most. We were there the longest together. Basically my whole I was with him for 10 years. And he was just a great teammate. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, guy would do magic in the locker room. He's a special talent. He's probably better at magic than he is at snapping the ball, but he's a daggone good snapper. I'm so happy that they found, you know, that heart thing that went on with him and were able to get it fixed, because that is a scary thing. I mean, you know, I think he was like days away from potentially being dead. And the fact that the Saints caught that was remarkable. But to this day, you know, I'm still good friends with John. I'm sure a lot of the guys that played with him, you know, would feel the same way. But he was very outgoing and willing to do magic around anybody's family member. Like he just loved that stuff. I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Brent, this is Larry Lucker. Appreciate you telling your story. It's a great story to hear. Wondering how much of an impact really does the fan base make and the noise in the stadium, and what do you think it's like for the players today, given the lack of that?
I mean, the energy that the fans bring into the stadium is crazy. I didn't even know how the team was going to play this year with no fans. Like, I couldn't even have imagined how like terrible it would have been to be out there. I think for the offensive guys, it wasn't too bad just because they all have to communicate. And really for all the guys, you have to communicate to the guys next to you constantly. And when you're in environments where you can't communicate, that makes it very tough. So I think from that perspective, they're happy about it. But the home field advantage, not being able to have home field advantage this season, I think it's tough, man. It's really, really tough.
Makes sense. Especially in a town like Philly, I imagine.
Oh yeah. I
If
mean,
anyone,
we sell out every game.
if you have a question for Brent, unmute yourself.
Yeah, Steve, unmute. Yeah,
There you go.
And I was wondering how you ended up here in Westchester as our neighbor.
So my wife is from Westchester. She went to St. Simon and Jude, and honestly, I told my wife, I was like, "Hun, the one thing I'm like adamant about is we have to have running water on our property. Like we have to have a stream or something." And literally, like 2 weeks after we talked about that, she came to me and she was like, I found the property. I'm like, there's no way you found the property that quick. And we drove out here and I saw, the Craybilly farm here and how this was just a little piece of it. And I fell in love with it that day. I mean, I just loved the property the day I saw it and knew it had so much potential. And honestly, like I'm probably half done over here still. I got so much landscaping to do and so many things that I want to do in the backyard. So, but I love it out here, man. The town of Westchester is great. The food there is phenomenal. So I really enjoy being out here.
You've created a wonderful physical structure. I can't wait to see the landscaping that is yet to come.
Yeah, thank you.
Why was Andy Reid asked to move on?
I think when you're in one place for as long as Andy Reid was, I think it was probably best for both parties to part ways and just start fresh. I think similar, that's why I felt like I probably could have gone right into working for the Eagles full time after playing for them, but sometimes you just need a break after doing something for so long where it's so stressful every single day. I mean, I'll tell you what, going inside of a locker room and facility every single day when you're losing is awful. Listening to outside people talking all the time about how bad your team is, it's not fun. It can be tough, especially when you care so much and you're giving your body up. You're giving so much time and effort to it. It's not easy. So yeah, I just think it's when you're someplace long enough, sometimes it's just good to move on and start fresh.
What are your thoughts on the latest with Doug?
I feel bad for Doug. I wish he was here, but I understand it. And I saw some of the things that Jeffrey Lurie said, and it seems like we're a team that's kind of rebuilding and getting younger and looking more at the long term. And I think he was feeling that if I just keep Doug around here and we're kind of rebuilding and we have another losing season, like it's, is it inevitable? So there's decisions that those two guys made, and it is what it is. I mean, Doug is a great coach. I think he's going to land on his feet if he wants to. I have so much respect for him. He's a great coach at putting players in position to be successful. And to me, that's all you can ask of a coach, is that they put you in position as a player to be successful. And he does a great job of that.
Brett, I have a two-part question about Wentz. It seems to me when he first came into the league, he played almost with reckless abandon. He ran a lot. He seemed to have a lot of confidence in what he was doing and stuff. And then it seemed to me once he got hurt, he either went into a more conservative mode of how he was playing, or the coaching staff was afraid of him getting hurt, kind of pulled back on some of the things he was doing when he first came into the league. So one part of it is, the whole thing about what's going on with Wentz. The second part is they kind of got a problem. I mean, they got this really big contract, and I think he was even named franchise player. And the question becomes, do you try to salvage him, or do you really get rid of him and eat the contract? So that two-part is, first, what's changed with him and why did it change? And two, what do you think they're going to do from a business point of view with him?
Well, I think there's so many variables of why a quarterback is successful or not. One being the offensive line, wide receivers, if you're having injuries at those positions, how it affects. So I think you just got to look at it as a whole. Is it all Carson's fault? I don't think so. I'm watching it just like you guys are. I think there's times where he's not playing very good. There's been many times where he's not playing very good, but some of the people around him are making mistakes, and all it takes is for one guy on every single play to make a mistake that can mess up the whole play. And so, you got to have all 11 guys in sync on the same page and put them in position to win. To the second part, I think you hold on to him. I think Carson is still a good football player. I think that we live in a society where people want instant gratification, and no one is allowed to grow. It's like, we can't support a guy that is failing. It's just like, find somebody new. And my opinion is he's a good quarterback that needs some more time. You invested a lot of money into him. Give him some time. And I think he's a smart enough guy that gets it. He's going to get it figured out. But you've also, you got to show faith in him. I think the team does believe in him. I think the team is going to hold on to him, but I don't know. I like Carson.
Do you think when it came down to Carson or Nick Foles, on a pure football point of view, which one would you have stuck with?
I mean, I wasn't. That's one of these questions that's hard. I try to keep them both, but you can't. So, do I think the Eagles made the right decision? I do. Like, would I have probably made that decision? Yeah. Nick wanted an opportunity to start somewhere. Carson's a young quarterback with a ton of promise, literally had an MVP season the year we won the Super Bowl. So, I don't think that was a bad move. I'm sure you could get Nick back this year if you wanted.
Who would you like to see as the next Eagles coach?
I have no clue. I don't know anybody out there, but I think Deuce Staley would make a good head coach. I do know him. I think he'd make a good head coach, but I don't know any of the candidates out there they'd be looking at.
You ever interested in coaching?
Maybe when my kids grow up. I got 3 young kids right now, and if I were to go into coaching, I would never see them. And so, to me, that's one thing in life I don't want to regret. I don't want to look back and say, "Oh, why did I not spend time with my kids? Like, they're the most important thing to me, and yet I'm teaching everybody else these lessons that I've learned, but I'm not even teaching my own kids. Like, it doesn't even make sense to me." So, I'm adamant. I'm very adamant that I'm spending time with my family. I'm selling a lot of real estate. If any of you guys are looking to buy or sell real estate, come talk to me.
You know, you
I'm
have
gonna
competition
raise
in
my
this
kid.
group.
Hey, Brent, I've always wondered how the players experience the great Eagles rivalries, such as Dallas, Giants, things like that. I mean, obviously, as fans, we get super hyped up for those games, and the mere sight of the Dallas star just makes me cringe.
Yeah.
But I've always wondered, as players, I mean, obviously there's a lot of media attention around those games, but do you go into those games? Is there like a different sense of excitement or kind of just trash talking?
Oh yeah. I mean, when we play the Cowboys, I would say that's the biggest rivalry, and it's really because it's how the fans feel about them. I truly believe like the fans create the rivalries, but the players they just take on that feeling of the fans. And so I would say that Eagle fans hate Dallas the most, and then probably the Giants next. But
True.
any division team is pretty much a rival nowadays, So, but the players feel it. The players feel the energy that's in the stadium. They feel the excitement around the game. It's impossible not to understand what's going on around you, especially when you're living in that world. So they feel it.
Brent, how's the transition into the business world going? What has helped from your football career, and what have been some of the biggest challenge or two that you've had transitioning into real estate business?
The whole teamwork aspect has helped. The fact that I don't have to be, like a selfish business owner too has really helped. I can really step back and share with my teammates and, help them. I was able to become professional in one career, and to be able to help them grow in this next career for me, with me, means everything to me. I'm a firm believer that like we're a team right now, and I think 10 years from now, if we're all together, we'll consider each other family. And that's what I'm trying to do in the real estate world. I've got 6 people that have started this business with me, and I'm hoping that we're all together when this is all said and done, probably 10, 15 years from now.
Mhm.
But the things that, I mean, I would say one of the toughest things is, and it's not like it's a problem for me because, I'm used to it now, but like when you go into a locker room of guys every morning, and that's your life for the last 15, 16 years, and then just to go into the business world where there's now women in there, and that aspect is different, because a locker room, literally anything goes. I'm telling you, anything goes. Like it's crazy. And so now in the real world, like it's just something you got to learn. But I do miss walking into the locker room, making fun of guys, being made fun of, joking around. That stuff, I absolutely loved it. And that's probably the part of the game that I missed the most. Seeing those guys every single day, because that's what made it fun.
Does that tie into what
Sure,
you
a
were
lot of
saying?
guys know the same thing.
Oh yeah.
That's
What
why
you were
y'all
saying
hang out
earlier
at
too.
golf clubs.
You were saying everything is they're critical. You can be critical of everything in the NFL. So has it been? And you said it's a lot different in the business world.
Yeah, you have to be a little more sensitive. What's funny is like the group of people I'm telling you about, the 6 people, like we have fun in the office. There's girls in there and we joke around, we laugh, so we do make it fun. It's almost like, but in the office, and if somebody does something wrong, how you approach them, you can't be right up in their face and scream and yell at them. You have to be civil. And so that hasn't been hard for me, because I've grown up around people that handled situations that way. But in the football world, that's not how things go down. So it's a little learning curve, but it's no problem.
What's the name of your company that you work for?
I created Brent Selleck Real Estate. So basically, I had a team of people underneath a Remax, and then we decided to head out and start our own business. And so just started Brent Selleck Real Estate. We've been open for a week. So just got started. But
would you spell that out? Would you spell that out for me?
Oh, it's just my name, Brent Selleck Real Estate.
Okay.
Yeah, BRENTCELEK.
Is it, it's not commercial real estate, it's all,
We're based mainly on residential stuff. I would do commercial if somebody wanted to come on the team and get in that world. We'll support it. I'll do a few commercial deals here and there as people want me to, but I'm not really living in the commercial world, just because the people that are on my team they grew up in the residential world. So just focusing on residential.
what do you think of Westchester as a place to live?
Oh, great place to live. I love it. I try to talk everybody to come out here, but it seems like everybody's already coming out here.
Don't try too hard.
I know. It seems like everyone's already coming out.
Hey, Brent,
I love that they fixed 22.
Yeah.
Brent, this is Dave Goodale. Our pastor's on right now, a previous pastor, and he could tell you about Roman Gabriel that attended our church. He lived in Radley Run.
Oh, really?
And played football for the Eagles. Yeah. A
Oh,
little
wow.
bit of history.
That's cool.
And Brent, there seems to be such a gusher of money coming into the NFL that if you listen to some people on TV, the fans, doesn't matter what they care anymore because there's money for the owners. Do you see any owners who really don't care anymore about winning and they're just in it to get rich?
I mean, I don't. I think that's a tough thing to do in the NFL, is to basically not care about your team. I mean, I think the NFL as a whole does probably a great job of policing that stuff. I mean, to me, the NFL is the most competitive league of all the major sports leagues. And I'm sure they have, issues with owners here and there, but I'm sure they have conversations with them and figure it out. But I think the NFL is run the right way. I think it's, like I said before, it's the best sports league of all of them. I think it's the most competitive. Like, even though the Browns were bad for so long, every year that when the Browns start the season, they've got a chance. And, this year now the Browns are a playoff team that beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so I think that parity is what makes people love the NFL so much, is that your team always has a chance.
Brent, I'll ask you another question. I've always been a New York Giant fan. That's because I'm from New York. Moved out here about 10 or 12 years ago. But and I do watch the Eagles, and I root for them as long as they're not playing the Giants. But what was Peterson doing by putting in the third string quarterback in the fourth quarter when he knew darn well the Giants had a chance to make the playoffs if you guys had beat Washington? So what was his thinking there? What was going on with it? You have any idea?
I don't know. I think that he said earlier in the week that he was going to play Sudfeld at some point in the game. I think the timing of it was just very odd for people to understand. So I understand that aspect, but he also wanted to get a kid on the field that wasn't able to get in the preseason, wasn't able to even step foot on the field all year. So I understand that aspect of it, but I don't know, maybe just share it to everybody and tell everybody, like, hey, he's gonna play. But he did do that. So it's hard for me because they can make a narrative whatever they want it to be. And I would just say the timing of it was not good.
Thank you.
You're a diplomat.
I gotta be. Grilling me.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to ask Brett?
I'd like to ask him, Brent, this is Dan Williams. How do you feel about the rules right now about, is a catch really a catch?
I think the rules are more clear now than they have been in the past. I think it should just be 2 steps, though. Like making a football move and all of that stuff. It's hard to tell when are you making a football move, but I think just getting 2 hands down, control of the ball, and then if you are falling, you have to control it into the tuck. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, or at least I feel now that I can say what is a catch and what is not. Like I feel like a few years ago I was saying, "Oh, that's a catch," and then they'd be like, "That is not a catch," and I'll be like, "What?" So I feel like now I can call it better, but I don't know. I think what they do to improve the rules, the NFL is very progressive, and I think they do a good job of making sure that if something doesn't work, they stop using it. But I like how they're doing it right now.
Who's your favorite Super Bowl player or team?
Who do I think is going to win the Super Bowl this year?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I think Green Bay is playing really good, and it's hard to go against the Chiefs. I say Green Bay and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and then I say, for some reason, I think Green Bay will eke it out.
Okay, I have a non-sports related question. Tell us about the alpacas. Why did you pick alpacas, and how many do you have now?
Glad you asked. I have 5 alpacas now, 2 babies, 3 adults, all females. And the reason we picked alpacas is they are one of the easiest animals to own. My wife and I knew we wanted animals, but we did a lot of research on animals. What animals that the kids could be in the pen, not have to really worry about. And we landed on alpacas. I started talking to a bunch of people in the area that own alpacas, and like they lived up to the hype. You know, I've never cleaned out my barn once because an alpaca poops in it. They poop in piles outside. And that's like, I mean, it's like one of the greatest things to have an animal just poop literally in one pile outside of the barn, and they never poop in the barn. So they're very easy to own. Like I haven't had any real issues with them. You just got to make sure they don't get something called the meningia worm. They're not like the friendliest of animals, but they're very intrigued. So they'll come up to you. They just don't want you to pet them. You know, they'll just run away. They're more scared. So, but they're good to own. The babies is what it's all about. You know, having the babies. We have the 2 babies right now. They're awesome. We love that the kids get to play with the babies.
Have you trained your kids like the alpacas?
I'm trying. They do their own thing though. Similar to the alpacas.
My granddaughter loves animals and she pets them, goes up to all of them. It drives my wife nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Could she come near an alpaca or not?
She could come near an alpaca. They're not going to bite you or anything. They just don't love, like, they're not like affectionate animals. You know, a dog will come up to you and be like, scratch me, scratch me. The alpaca will come up to you and just look at you and just be like, you're not going to hurt me, are you? You know, they're more worried about predators.
One question, deer. We have so many deer in our yard.
Mm-hmm.
They eat all my vegetation. Do the deer? We went out yesterday. There were 14 in our backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Are they in your area? Do they compete with your alpacas? Do they get along? How do you do?
Oh, they don't even come in. So the deer just run along the stream by my house. And I think generally speaking, they try to stay along those areas, you know, where they got fresh water. So I see them run back and forth every day, and you know, they're peaceful. I'll tell you what, a lot of them get hit by cars. They'll come lay next to the stream, like when they're injured, and try to drink water next to the stream, and they'll die by the stream. And then you'll see the big eagles come down. I don't know if you guys know, there's like 5 bald eagles out here. And there's a baby bald eagle that is massive. It's like 2 times the size of the mother. And so they were actually out here the other day. You know, they were eating a dead deer over here, and then a couple weeks later, they were over here eating a fox. So I enjoy the wildlife. I love it. We definitely have too many deer, but they could get into my backyard, but they don't, just because they like running that stream, so they don't really come up to the house at all.
That's because they're all in my backyard.
If they start eating my vegetation, I'm gonna take them down.
Okay. I've got a question for you, Brent. I've seen those eagles out in the yard beside your house. Have you spotted the nest? There's one nest over in Radley Run, but I'm sure this is a separate group.
There was a nest that was on Craybilly Farm, but I don't know. I haven't seen it up there.
Okay.
So I don't really know where they're from. They're beautiful though. I have a drone, so I take my drone and fly and try to get close to them, but they're hard. When they hear that drone, they take off.
Wow.
But like I said, one of them, I think a fox just died over here like last week, and the eagle came down and picked it up. you could see the full fox with the tail, and was trying to fly with it. And the fox was so heavy, she had to stop a couple times.
Amazing.
Do you know the people at Cribilli Farms?
Yeah.
Do you know Luke Saunders?
Yeah.
My son-in-law's brother.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they're nice people.
Well, Brett, the hour is up, and some of these guys have things to do, and I'm sure you do as well. But I want to thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Really interesting and informative, and we all understand your need to be a diplomat at times, and we thank you though for sharing with us and being the nice guy you are. Everybody tells me you're a great guy, and you really are. So we thank you for that, and come visit us at the church sometime.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I will.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you.
Guys, next week I'll be talking about